Welcome to the Friday press conference ahead of the 2019 Spanish Grand Prix. Joining us today from left to right, we have Mario Isola, Günther Steiner, Mattia Binotto, Fred Vasseur and Franz Tost. Günther, if we could start with you, please. Promising start for the Haas team here in FP1, but it's been another difficult start to the season for Romain Grosjean. Are we seeing a repeat of last year, or is it a different set of problems for him?
I hope he hasn't got the same problems here like he had last year, so I think a lot of people would not enjoy that. So, no, I think we struggled, as everybody's seen in Australia. We were, performance-wise, not too bad. We had a pit stop issue in the races afterwards. I shouldn't say it because I've got Mario beside me. We had some issues. We couldn't get the tires to work, which he will disagree heavily, by the way. I forewarn you. And here it seems to be working, but it's too early to say. It's FP1, you know. So we at least have to go through FP2 to get to some conclusions. But this morning was a good session. I mean, it was enjoyable again. So let's hope we can repeat it for the rest of the weekend and we don't do any damage in the race. But
from Romain's point of view, are you seeing more consistency from him this year than we were at the same stage last year?
Absolutely. I mean, last year he's very calm. He cannot do anything about it, you know, so he stays very calm, he stays focused, and I have all the confidence that we don't repeat, or he doesn't repeat what happened last year.
Now, you've already touched on tyres. You were quite outspoken about them after the race in Baku 2 weeks ago. Just tell us what the issues were.
Mario knows better than me. He's the expert on tyres, not me, you know. I mean, we have got issues. We cannot get them to work. We cannot get the heat into them, you know, so on certain kind of trucks. And that is our problem. And here, again, I said in Baku that we will be struggling beforehand. Here I was more confident, not completely, because but we should get them to work, and we get them to work here. So we have got an issue that we just cannot get the tires to work at each racetrack. So that is our issue.
Okay, thank you, Günther. Good luck this weekend. Mario, perhaps we could just get your reaction to some of the comments Günther came out with after the race in Azerbaijan.
Yeah, I believe Baku is quite a unique circuit where you have an asphalt that is very smooth, and so it's not going to generate energy into the tire. You have a long straight, cold weather condition. The tires are losing a lot of temperature, and we know from the past the characteristics of the circuit. Last year, when we developed the current product, we were required to have a product not without blistering. You remember that last year in some races we had blistering, and to reduce the overheating. That was a clear request from the drivers. So basically our tires have been developed with this in mind, and also the working ranges are probably a bit higher than last year. But we didn't experience any issue here in Barcelona, the pre-season test, and it was quite cold. No, we had good weather, but it was February, March, and the same in Melbourne. In Bahrain, okay, I had a chat with Günther. I know their situation, and I hope they can find the solution to that. But I cannot say that is a common problem to everybody. So in Baku, because of the circuit characteristics, was a bit more, let's say, difficult to keep the front and the rear tires in the right operating window. The operating windows cannot be narrower than last year, because don't forget that we have two compounds, what we call C3 and C4, that are the same compounds than last year. So at least with these two compounds, they have the same operating window, and this is the analysis that I can do now.
Apart from the two compounds that are the same as last year, have the new compounds become harder to work with for the teams?
I don't think so, because the C1 and C2 are slightly softer than last year, and with the C5, that is equivalent to what we call hypersoft in 2018, the main issue was the graining, and the new compound has a better mechanical stability, but with the same or wider operating window. Obviously, we have to discover that in the next few races where we are going to use this compound. They tested the compound in Abu Dhabi, they tested the compound in Barcelona, because it was a free choice of all the 5 compounds. And I believe that the new compounds are not more difficult to manage.
Okay, and looking a little bit further ahead, you announced yesterday that Formula 2 will use 18-inch tyres in 2020. What can you tell us about your testing program ahead of Formula 1 making the same changes in 2021? Have you decided how that's going to work yet?
Yeah, for Formula 2, obviously, we have a very packed test program because we have to develop the tires in 6-7 months. We already agreed a test schedule with the promoter and with the FIA. For Formula 1, the intention is to have 3 sessions, September, October and November, and 3 teams are going to supply the mule car. They are Mercedes, McLaren and Renault. And we are going to offer the opportunity to provide a mule car for 2020 again to all the teams. It's their choice if they want to do that or not. So it's the same system and the same procedure that we have used in the last few years. We offer to everybody, teams can accept or not, and then we make a plan according to the number of teams that accepted. We have 25 days of testing for next year, as it was in the last few years. So we have a short development plan for 2020 in the first half of the season, and then we switch on 18 inches tire from September onwards.
Okay, thank you, Mario. Franz, if we could come on to you, please. We heard from Günther an overview of Haas's start to the season. Perhaps you could just give us your thoughts after the opening 4 races from Toro Rosso's point of view.
Toro Rosso is a competitive package. We have a car which works well. We have a powerful engine from Honda and 2 drivers which are also competing quite good. We scored points in all the races apart from Baku, but I think that Daniel could have finished there on the 9th, 10th position. Unfortunately, he was involved in the collision with Ricciardo, and I'm quite positive that we can also be here within the first 10. Generally speaking, I think we are in a position to come with at least with 1 car in qualifying 3 and to score points.
Okay, and a word about Alex Albon as well. He was something of an unknown quantity coming into this year. Has he surprised you with how quickly he's adapted to Formula 1?
Yes, it was a positive surprise because, as you know, if a young, unexperienced driver is coming into Formula 1, there's always a question mark, but I said already during the test sessions here in Barcelona in February that Alex could become the driver surprise of the year, and so far he has done a very good job with good technical feedback from the mechanical side, from the aero side, but also regarding the tires. He understands how to use the tires in the best possible way, and we are really very happy to have him in the team.
Okay, thank you, Franz. Fred, coming on to you. We saw some compliance issues with the front wing of Kimi Raikkonen's car in Baku a couple of weeks ago. How have you resolved that for this race? Have you reverted to an older spec or updated the Baku wing?
Just to clarify that I think first we were out of the spec, we did the mistake, and perhaps that you can consider the decision was a bit harsh, but it's like this, that we have to clean in front of our door first, and I think that the mistake was on our side, and for sure that we are not coming in Barcelona with the same look.
Okay, Fred, it's been a strong start for Sauber this year, particularly on Kimi Raikkonen's side of the garage, but we saw progress from Antonio in Baku, and how confident are you that he's made a breakthrough and that he can progress and challenge Kimi for the rest of the season?
Well, if you have a look on the first 4 races, I think he was into the pace, and that we made also on his side probably too many mistakes. He had some reliability issues, and he got the penalty in China first. He didn't do the quali, and then in Baku. And for sure, for Aoki, it's far too much that we have to give him a clean sheet 1 week and to do a proper job. But I think he is improving, that he was in front of Kimi in Baku, and he did a very strong quali also in Melbourne. That no, I'm quite confident that he's very focused, motivated, and results will come and will help.
Okay, thanks, Fred. Good luck with that. Mattia, thank you for waiting. Well, we're back in Barcelona, where 2 months ago, Sebastian in particular was singing the praises of your car. The drivability then seemed to drop away when we went racing. After FP1 today, can you tell us, are you back where you were in March?
I think we never drop away. I think that certainly we had a strong winter testing, but I think that our main competitors were as strong as we were at the time. And on the last day of winter testing, they scored the same lap time. As a matter of fact, I think we already mentioned that they would have been very strong as well. And I think that since then, we are both developing our car. The car are developed. So coming here, it's certainly not anymore the same car we had at the time. Weather conditions are completely different. The heat is certainly a different factor. So are you exactly on the same, let me say, on the same page? I don't think you can compare. And I think more important that obviously it's a relative competition. So more important that we are focusing on the weekend, trying to optimize the car and the package, and we are doing our best.
You've brought a host of upgrades to this race. A lot is being made of this power unit upgrade that is a couple of races early. Could you just tell us what's gone on in Maranello to bring these updates forward? Just can you tell us a little bit about what's been going on in the factory, and are people working even harder than normal?
Obviously, when you're planning such a, let me say, a change on your schedule or planning, you need to do it a few weeks ago. It's not something we've decided within that week. Having started the season in Melbourne, we recognize that somehow we may have been late on our, let me say, performance compared to competitors, and we tried simply to push on all the main items where we were already planning developments, and we're simply looking for opportunities in anticipating some of the programs. We did it already with an aero package in Baku, which was somehow introduced earlier compared to our initial program. We did it here as well for the power unit. You simply achieve that by trying maybe sometime to shortcut or to intensify the activity. I have to say that the people back at Maranello have worked very hard. We intensified our activities, and we are working still very hard, because I think that's what we need to do at the moment.
Okay. Mattia, thank you very much. Let's open this to the floor now, and as ever, please remember to give your name and publication. First question, please.
Fred Fer, l'équipe, question to all of you. Is the success of the Netflix series help you to have an agreement with them for the season 2?
Who would like to start with that? Franz, let's start.
Sorry, once more. Has the success?
The success of the first season signed, because we saw them shooting already in Baku. Have you signed something with them for the second season?
No, not that I'm aware.
But will you sign with them?
We will see.
Do any of you want to just give us your thoughts on the success of the next Netflix series and what you feel it's done for Formula One? Gunther, perhaps? Yes.
I'm still far away behind.
Yeah, serious. What? You should talk, because
No, I didn't see it, but I don't know, everybody tells me, but I don't know how successful it is, because there was no ratings, as I'm told, and Netflix never gives them. So, but I think everybody was positive about it, so I guess it helps. It should help to bring people in which normally don't watch the races, which get see this, because Netflix, a lot of more people watch than watching F1, I would say. So if the people watch it and then they get interested in F1, that should help us. That should help us all, and that would be it's a good thing, in my opinion.
And Gunther, to follow up on Fred's question, would you be willing to help Netflix with a series 2?
Yes.
Excellent. Mattia, will we see Ferrari involved?
I think that, as Gunther said, it's certainly an interesting program. We have not participated last season as Ferrari. We are considering it at the moment. We have not taken our final decision, so it's something we will do in the next few weeks.
Okay, thank you. Next question, please.
Hello, Sam Collins from Racecar Engineering. Looking to the future, in 2021 to 2024, we're going to have single-make brakes and wheels, and I'm a little bit interested to know how that's going to affect your teams, and in terms of Pirelli, how it's going to affect your company, both commercially and technically.
Sam, is that to everybody?
That's to everybody.
Mario, let's start with you.
on our side, having a standard rim obviously is, you know, that at the moment each team is designing its own rim, and that could make things a bit complicated for us. Sometimes it's difficult to fit a tire, and heat exchange with the rim is also an item we have to consider. So for sure is a standardization that could help on our side, the brakes as well.
Gunter, your thoughts?
I think standardization, first of all, I think it hasn't been decided how much we do standardization, so I think we're getting ahead of ourselves here to say that it was decided for 21. I think, I don't know that anybody signed an agreement that it will be standardized. A lot of parties been looked into it because the tenders went out, but it could go both ways, you know. Sometimes you get some parts which just work, and sometimes you then get parts which everybody's got the same. Some people get them to work with their car, and the worst bit for me is we need to make sure that Formula One keeps its DNA. And the DNA of Formula One, for me, it's developing at it's the only motorsport which is still free for technology, you know. And once you start standardization, it can be a slippery slope, in my opinion. We need to be careful not going down that slope, and then all of a sudden we're ending up with all the same cars. And a lot of people are interested in our technology, and that is for why they're watching F1. I don't know. First of all, we have to see what is actually happening with standardization before I make a final comment how I think about it.
Mattia, what's your view?
Very much aligned with Gunter. So as first, not decided yet. Yes, true, there are some tenders and discussions are ongoing. As Ferrari, we always highlight that we are against the standardization principle, but we know as well that we need to control the costs and the expenses. So, and obviously there is a budget cap. So we need to find the right balance. Standardization makes only sense if you may save money, which has to be proved as first, but we need as well to take care of the DNA of the F1, as Gunter said. And for example, if we take the rims, all the cars with exactly the same rims, I think that in terms of aesthetics is not good for F1 from the outside, because you're not differentiating anymore the cars from one car to the others, maybe just the paint, but it's not something we should look at. So we are going through an entire process together with FIA tenders. I think we should look first at the result of the tender and then do a proper evaluation, but make it carefully.
Fred?
The F1 was able to do it on the ECU 15 years ago. I think that we can manage a situation on the brakes or the rims. The only issue for me would be the timeline, that we need to be aware quite soon, and we need to have more details quite soon about the technical aspect. But if we are in a rush, then everything is more and more expensive. And
okay. And Franz?
First of all, we have to wait what the regulation at the end will say. Standardization of parts, there are two reasons. First of all, to come down with the costs, and the second also to bring the performance together of the different teams. And I don't agree to say DNA is Formula One is just to develop. We have to find a way to come down with the costs, and no one takes care which brakes we have in the car or which rims we have. The people want to see some interesting races, some overtaking maneuvers. They don't care about the form of the rims or about the brakes. They just want to see interesting races, and we have to come down with the costs. Therefore, I am in agreement with as many standard parts as possible.
Okay, thank you. Next question, please.
Scott Mitchell. Mattia, you talked about the upgrades and the earlier upgrades rejigging the schedule. I just wanted to check what the sort of longer term consequences of that will be this season, because obviously it's a long season. Does this, by bringing it at race 5, does that lock you into probably a 4th engine at the end of the year, and could you introduce an additional spec at the end of the season?
No, that's not the plan. So the early introduction doesn't mean that we cannot still use PO1 in some races, and maybe that can be an option, but certainly we are not hoping to have 4 engines per season per driver plan.
Thank you. Next one.
Dieter Enk and Racing Lines and RaceFans.net. Mario, given all the talk about the tyres, etc., obviously when you came to the season, you had some form of objective list, your target letter, etc. Are you quite comfortable that you've achieved all those in terms of compounds, of degradation, etc.? And at which stage do you phase out of developing 13-inch rims and concentrate purely on tyres and concentrate purely on 18-inch?
Yeah, I would say, as I said before, one of the target was to eliminate the blistering that we had last year, and the other one was to reduce the overheating, to give the opportunity to drivers to push more, and I believe we are in the right direction. Last year we started the development of the new product with some other ideas, and we want to conclude this phase for 2020. That's why we have decided to keep the development of 13 inches tire in the first part of the season for next year. So the plan is also to find new compounds with a wider working range. That is what they are asking for, and to upgrade another step the construction. Then obviously from September we will focus on 18 inches. That is a big challenge.
Thank you, Mario. Next one.
The red one, please, first. Ian Parks, New York Times. Question to all 14 principals. Given your respective starts to the season, could you give us an idea as to whether it has been worse or better than expected and the reasons behind that, and what your expectations are for the rest of the season now you have a decent idea as to where you are performance-wise?
Franz, let's start with you.
From Toro Rosso side, I must say that we had a reasonably good start into the season. As I mentioned beforehand, we scored points and we have a competitive package. From the different racetracks, I must say Australia was really a big success. Many people were there, and was also not so bad in Bahrain and in Baku. From the race entertainment itself, I must say was not so exciting, because we have two cars in front which are winning race after race, and that's not, I think, the best for Formula One, because it starts to become boring, as far as friends of mine say to me. They say, don't watch any more Formula One because always the same are winning, and I think this is not good.
And Sauber's perspective?
For Alfa Romeo Racing was probably a good start of the season, that we score points on every single event, and it's so tight in the midfield that you can, as Franz said before, that from one session to another one, or from one race to another one, you can move from P4 to P10, and it's very difficult to make any prediction. But I think at least at this stage of the grid, it's exciting, and that when you arrive in Barcelona, you never know if you will be P7 or P20. And I think that the fun is there, and everybody is pushing like hell to bring update and to push and to get results on the next one. And I think that I'm quite happy with what the job done so far, and for Alfa Romeo Racing was a good one.
Thank you, Mathieu.
Yeah, I think difficult answer. Certainly, we are not happy for the points we've scored so far. I think we have missed a great opportunity in Bahrain, where we could have done certainly a fantastic result compared to the one we did. I think as well in Baku, overall we could have done a better race and certainly a better quali. So if you make the sum at the end, we are missing points. We are missing points compared to where we believe is our potential. Our objective certainly is not to be where we are in terms of, again, points and classification, so we cannot be happy on the start of the season. But I think that from the performance overall, it's not a drama at all. I think we've got still a good car. The competition is very, very strong, and that I think was known, and it's not a surprise. But I think we are still in the battle, and we come to each single race with certainly the willing of trying to do well, and we can do it.
Thank you, Günther.
I think we clearly underperformed from Australia onwards because of our issues which we cannot get a grip of, and we need to do a better job going forward on that one. But I think, as Fred said, the competition in midfield is very tight, and which makes it interesting for Formula One. But I think if you ask me, we should have more points, but we don't. But the good thing is it's very close together. Nobody in the midfield went away with 30 or 40 points, so you can make up a lot in one race. So as long as we don't keep on doing what we did up to now, we should be okay. But I would say I'm happy on one side. The car is very competitive, but we didn't get the maximum out of it. So we just need to do a better job as a team altogether.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Next question, please.
Alan Boulder and Reuters. Mattia, you mentioned earlier about the Netflix. Another area that Ferrari have not been involved in, and I'm sure it's well down your list of priorities, but is esports. I just wondered if you had made a decision whether you were going to be competing this year, and what are the pros and cons for a team like Ferrari of getting involved?
I think that esport, as for Netflix, both of them are certainly great programs. Esport is increasing in terms of interest. And certainly as Ferrari, we are looking seriously to it. We have not yet fully committed to the program, but it's something our discussions are ongoing, and we'll make very soon our own decision.
Next one.
Joe van Buurik, Racing News 365. Question to all 5 gentlemen. It seems very likely a year from now we'll be racing in Zandvoort for Dutch Grand Prix. What are your personal experiences with that track, and what do you expect of that event?
Mario, let's start.
I don't have a lot of experience in Zandvoort. We go there with the GT racing, but to be honest, I don't know the circuit very well.
I've been once in Zandvoort with DTM a long time ago, and I think it's a great place to go racing. It's a racetrack near cities. I mean, for sure there will be a lot of Dutch fans there, and I think it's always exciting to go to new places. I know Zandvoort is not new, but it's new again for Formula One. So I think it's exciting because we reach out to more people, which is sometimes in areas where they cannot go to other races, and it's interesting. New things to learn, new things to see, and I actually look forward to it.
So me as well, never been in Zandvoort, so it will be the very first time. Quite interested and exciting to be there. I think it's good to have another race in Europe and Netherlands, as Gunther said, a lot of Dutch fans. So I'm pretty sure it will be a good race. So looking ahead and looking forward.
Yeah, I went a couple of times to Zandvoort for the F3 and DTM, and it was always a great and exciting event. It's with a lot of fans, and I think it's a good place.
We did a lot of races in Zandvoort, in Formula 4, Formula 3. I've it in very positive in mind, and I must say that I like it there. It's close to the sea, it's close to Amsterdam, everything a fantastic infrastructure, interesting track, and I expect that many spectators will come there, and it will become a very exciting race for Formula One. Therefore, I hope that we go there.
Thank you. Next one.
Christian Mehnert, motorsportmagazin.com. First part of the question for you, Mario. Can you talk us through the process, how you choose the 3 teams for the 80-inch tire test this year, and how many teams offered the possibility? And for the team principals, what are your feelings about that you were probably not chosen or you didn't offer your cars? Do you think this could be a disadvantage, and especially from Mattia, your main competitor Mercedes is delivering a car? Could this be a disadvantage for you?
Mario, let's
okay, the process is the one I described before. We offer the opportunity to test to all the teams, and 3 teams replied in a positive way. And obviously everybody knows that the development is not just in these 3 sessions in 2019. So as I said, all the teams can decide to participate in 2020. The 3 teams that replied positively have been chosen, and we are planning 3 sessions, so it's quite easy to give 1 session each.
Mattia, your thoughts?
Yeah, obviously we have been offered. It has been our own choice not to participate, being short on time and resources for the program. So as Ferrari, we decided simply not to take part of this test in 19, but we are preparing ourselves to do it obviously in 2020. I'm pretty sure that we will have the opportunity to do it. Will that be a disadvantage? Certainly, if you cannot do everything and you need to make your own priority at some stage, and that has been, again, our own choice, but there is still a process where put in place where Pirelli anyway are sharing the data with all the teams of the output and the results of the mule car testing. So we are certainly counting on that one for at least the very first test.
Yeah. Do any of the other three team principals have anything to add about the selection process? Do you feel you're going to be at a disadvantage?
Everybody could decide. We from Toro Rosso cannot afford to do this test because we simply don't have the manpower and also not the financial resources. And therefore, the three teams decided to do it, and that's fair.
And Fred, Alfa Romeo?
If Mattia is short in terms of resources to do the test, that you can imagine that for us it's not easy.
Yeah.
We are working hard to figure out the 19 tires, so we have no time for the 21 tires.
Okay, next question, please.
Yeah, Sergio Rodriguez from Formula Rápida. A question for all team principals. Yesterday we saw that Pirelli will use F2 as a way to develop the 18-inch tires. Do you think F2 can be used as a development platform for the new regulations coming on 2021? Not only that, in the future as well. Do you think F2 can be used as a platform test? Thank you.
Franz.
Of course, first tests with F2 make sense. Pirelli can get a lot of information, data about it, and in parallel to this, they anyway test with the three Formula One teams. And I think that the way how they do it is the right one.
Right?
Yeah, they will get a live experience with the Formula 2. I think it's also good for the young drivers in F2 to be used to drive with the 18-inch tires. And then I think each team will try to build up a collaboration with GP2 teams and to have a look.
Yeah, and the question has been asked to the four team principals, but probably Pirelli is the best person to reply. Is that useful or not as a platform? The cars are quite different. The level of performance is certainly quite different. The level of downforce and loads on the tires are different. But that's some things that obviously Pirelli is aware of. But at least it's a good starting point. Huh? They can do some experience on a different platform, different formula, and whatever they can do there will be to their help for the Formula One. But I'm pretty sure, and they are pretty aware, that on the F1 the exercise will be much, much more difficult.
Good.
I think there are no negatives to test them in F2, but the technicalities, I leave that one to Mario to explain, because as Mattia said, the loads and the forces are, I think they're different, unless Mario disagrees with me.
No, I never disagree with you. He's right. The forces, and especially after 2017, when Formula One decided to move on the wider size, and the cars are faster and faster, it's a good opportunity to get some experience from our side, but we cannot compare the Formula 2 tire with the Formula 1 tire. We will develop the Formula 1 tire with the mule cars, with a performance that is with representative performances, and otherwise we make a mistake for sure. We have to develop a bespoke tire for Formula 1, but the fact that we are anticipating that with Formula 2 is helpful, because we can have some experience on single-seater on 18 inches. Don't forget that we are supplying a lot of other championships with 18 inches tires, like GT and touring cars and so on. But the stress and the energy that is going into the tire on a Formula 1 car is not comparable.
Okay, thank you. I think we've got time for one more.
Dieter Renken, Racing Lines and RaceLines.net, to Mattia. Mattia, the way that I understand it, the veto that Ferrari has is a contractual right, not a lifetime right. How important is it to Ferrari to retain this veto right after 2020, in other words, from 2021 onwards? Is it a sticking point in your negotiations, or are you happy to forfeit it?
Certainly the veto right is something important for Ferrari, but I believe it's something important for F1 overall as well. because somehow it's not only protecting Ferrari, but it's protecting all the teams, maybe against some decisions that could be against the spirit or the interest of the teams themselves. Something that we are starting discussing with both FIA and F1, and I think that we are doing well in that respect, and hopefully we can keep the same rights.
Hopefully you can.
Yes.
Thanks, Mattia.
We can.
I think we do have time for one more question.
Scott Mitchell from Autosport. Fred, just wanted to clarify what you said at the beginning about the front wing here after what happened in Baku. So is it correct to just say you haven't had to change the specification, it's just you've had to just replace it with one of the other front wings that you had?
No, we changed the hook and the fixation.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Good luck for the rest of this weekend, and a full transcript of this press conference will be available shortly at FIA.com.